Welcome to the English Language Institute of Singapore's podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alison Tan, a lead specialist from ELIS. For this Classroom Inquiry podcast series, we invited 4 representatives from the West Zone ELNLC to talk to us about their experiences. This is the second episode of a 3-part series on their learning. Together with 8 other colleagues from the NLC, they completed 2 Classroom Inquiry projects in 2021 with support from ELIS. They presented the findings of their studies at the West Zone NLC Year-End Symposium in November 2021 and at the ELIS Classroom Inquiry webinar in February 2022. In the previous episode, Nora, Peter, Malar, and Yusnita described how they got started with Classroom Inquiry. In this episode, 2 teacher leaders, Peter and Malar, will tell us more about their inquiry in the area of oracy. Peter and Malar, thank you for being here today. Previously, you explained how the West Zone ELNLC decided to pursue 2 areas of inquiry, one on oracy and one on reading. As representatives of the oracy team, could you tell us more about your team's inquiry?
Yes, our inquiry project was guided by 2 questions. The first inquiry question was, what is the impact of using TalkMove's resources to enhance the facilitation of classroom discussions? And the second question was, how do teachers and students perceive the value of using TalkMove's resources in facilitating and enhancing classroom discussions? We wanted to study the effects of using TalkMoves on classroom discussions in EL reading and viewing lessons.
I see. And how many teachers, students, and schools participated in this inquiry project?
10 teachers and 213 students participated in this study. They came from 6 primary schools: Bukit Panjang Primary School, Greenridge Primary School, Kerming Primary School, Methodist Girls' School Primary, Princess Elizabeth Primary School, and Yihua Primary School.
That's quite a lot of teachers and students.
Yes, and that meant we had to plan the inquiry very carefully.
Could you tell us about your inquiry plan?
Well, we had the teachers conduct classroom discussions in 6 lessons using the TalkMoves and related resources, such as sentence starters, posters, cards, and checklists, to promote productive discussions. During that time, the teachers also took steps to cultivate classroom environments that encouraged talk, environments in which students felt a sense of psychological safety, knowing that their ideas wouldn't be put down. To collect data that would help us answer our questions, we recorded the discussions, whether they were teacher-led whole class discussions or student-to-student group discussions. We transcribed those recordings and then analyzed the transcripts to see if and how TalkMoves were applied. We also checked to see if students adhered to collaborative norms.
We also interviewed the teachers and students to find out what they thought about using TalkMoves for classroom discussions.
So, you collected sets of data from observation of the classroom discussions and from interviews with the teachers and students. What were the findings of your inquiry?
For the first inquiry question about the impact of using TalkMoves resources, our analysis of the transcript data showed that the resources did enhance the facilitation of classroom discussions. We found out that the TalkMoves resources promoted collaboration, deeper thinking, and the clearer articulation of ideas. For example, the sentence starters helped learners frame their ideas better. The TalkMoves resources also helped promote respectful discussions.
For the second inquiry question, which looked into teacher and student perceptions of the value of using TalkMoves resources, the findings from the interview data were also positive. Teachers and students found value in the use of TalkMoves for classroom discussions. The teachers reported that the resources fostered open and trusting relationships between them and the students, and among the students too. The students reported that the sentence stems helped them to feel more confident, facilitated meaningful discussions, and promoted self-directed learning. They also reported that the classroom talk, aided by the TalkMoves, helped to clarify their thinking.
Those are encouraging results. What impact has the inquiry had on your own learning and practice?
I would say that this inquiry has deepened our understanding of oracy and shifted our teaching practice.
That's interesting. Could you elaborate on how your practice shifted?
Well, we learned that we had to engage students in more learning-focused discussions. For students to be able to do this, we needed to demonstrate how they could participate respectfully in a discussion. We also learned that rules, such as turn taking and interjecting appropriately, had to be taught explicitly. As oracy refers to listening as well as to speaking, it is important to teach our students how to be good listeners so that they can build on what others have said. Sentence starters are good scaffolds because they provide students who are not so confident in speaking with ways of responding to what their peers have contributed to a discussion.
What about you, Peter? Would you like to add to that?
Yes, reflecting on the whole experience, I would say that, well, we learned that in order to engage students in inquiry through dialogue, the lessons we design need to evoke curiosity to trigger dialogue. The questions we pose during the lesson need to be carefully thought out beforehand if we want students to engage in critical thinking and meaningful discussions. For our students to be self-directed learners, they need to learn how to exercise control over their learning and use strategies and resources, such as talk moves, to process and respond to information. So, we need to teach students how to apply metacognitive strategies to strengthen and regulate their own learning. We should provide students with more opportunities not only to monitor their learning, but also to evaluate how they have engaged in discussions.
What impact has the inquiry had on your students' learning?
I would say that the change in our practice brought about by this inquiry has increased our students' confidence in oracy. They are more willing to participate in discussions and they are more respectful in the way they talk to one another.
We have also observed that students are saying more and thinking more deeply.
That's great. And what effect did the inquiry have on you as teacher leaders?
Oh, we learned a great deal. And that, I think, helps us to guide teachers better.
Right, I agree.
You know, engaging in this inquiry has deepened our own pedagogical content knowledge for sure. We improve our craft of teaching by designing learning experiences which incorporate collaborative learning and classroom discussion. I think we are also more adept at crafting questions to trigger dialogue. Having gained a better understanding of the benefits of dialogic teaching and exploratory talk from the Alice master teacher and senior specialist, we were able to explain to teachers why they should incorporate these strategies in their classrooms.
Yes, I think the collaboration with other teacher leaders on this project has helped us to reflect more on our own teaching practices and beliefs. We are now constantly asking ourselves how we can make learning accessible to our students, what evidence of student work will help us to determine what our students need, and what interventions we can implement to address those needs. I must say that, having gone through the inquiry process, we are definitely in a better position now to guide our teachers who wish to also embark on classroom-based inquiry.
It sounds like you have gained a great deal from the inquiry, both as teachers and as teacher leaders. Thank you, Malar and Peter, for providing us with insights into your own learning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We've come to the end of the second episode in our podcast series titled Learning from Inquiry as a Zonal NLC. In the next episode, we will invite teacher leaders Yusnita and Nora to tell us more about their inquiry on reading. This podcast was hosted by me, Dr. Alison Tan, a lead specialist from Ellis. Thank you for listening.